Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the World of Warcraft Community Council that they just put out that they're creating. And I didn't get a chance to do a video on this right away, but that was actually a good thing because I've actually got to see some other people's perspectives of this now, just with like 24 hours plus to think about it and stuff. So I'm going to be talking about this a little bit. Well, I actually do think it's a good thing, so I'm going to be talking a lot about why I think it's a good thing, but I am going to bring in some more negative perspectives that some people have had as well, and I'll be talking about that too. So they're creating this community council. This council is open to all players, which I think is very important because anybody can sign up for it. And I hope they do truly choose just like random players. I think it's important too that you want to find, obviously you want to choose like good-hearted or good-natured or good-intentioned players though, right? You don't want to pick a player that's always going to say negative things no matter what, because that's not particularly helpful when the point of this is having feedback that makes the game better. So you do have to weed those people out. But other than that, the people that'll always be negative or, are always just saying WoW's dead or whatever, you don't want to, but some of them still play the game, right? But you don't want to pick those people necessarily, unless they're going to be positive with their feedback, or not positive with their feedback, but constructive. That's the word I'm looking for. Constructive criticisms. If they're not going to do that, then it's not worth having. But pretty much every other player I think is worth having. So that's super casual, 1 or 2 hours a week. That's super hardcore. That's endgame raiding. That's pet battlers. That's transmog. That's role playing people. Every single person needs to be represented from this, and I hope that ends up being the case. I did sign up for this, and I hope that I do get selected. I think I bring a little bit of a unique thing to the community, frankly, just in the different types of things that I'm interested in the game. In fact, like if I just told you my average WoW playing session when I'm playing WoW, because like when there's nothing to do in the game, I just go play other games, right? But when I'm playing WoW, if I were to tell you like the average things I do, you'd be like, wow, that's a really casual player. And then you're like, oh, but I also do cutting edge rating as well, like very low level cutting edge rating, but still getting cutting edge every tier is a very low percentage of the players. And so I think I have a little bit of uniqueness in that way to where I am, I understand the high end stuff, because even though I'm not in like a top, a Hall of Fame guild or something like that, those are the people that I'm emulating, right? In my cutting edge guild. So I'm holding myself to that kind of standard. So I understand what they do, even if I'm not willing to put in the same work as them. I understand what these top level people are doing, how they see the game. But I also really, really understand like how this casual experience feels in the game. And I think it's really important to kind of put those things together. I also, participate in the secret finding stuff, and I used to do pet battles a little bit, but I'm not like knowledgeable in there. But farming old raids and just all kinds of stuff that I like to do. And there's people that are way better at me at all those things, but those people might not do high end rating, or they might not do in any sort of competitive PvP. And I've never been super high rated in PvP, but I do consider myself to be a pretty good PvP player. Just because, again, I understand everything, I've studied everything, and I just don't really have the desire to like get on a good team or find a good partner and stuff like that and push myself to do that. I don't necessarily see the reward for doing that other than the in-game rewards. So I have never really want to do that. But enough about me. I think this is going to be a really good thing for the game. If they listen, right? That's always the caveat. Are they going to listen? But when you have all these different people, and if it's someone like me at least, right? So when I say, well, I think this change is really, really good, look what it does for X, Y, and Z, but then like a random role-playing person's like, but this really affects us really badly. This is like whatever that case may be, whatever the change may be. And it might be something that I never really thought of before. And then that can then alter my opinion, because I don't really want to ruin anyone else's experience to make my experience better. And I would hope that whoever gets invited to this council has that kind of mindset, right? To where they're working together, because that's one of the things I talk about. They're going to be discussing things together, chats together and stuff like that. And hopefully that people can come together and put the ideas together to make an idea that kind of that everybody likes, right? That's something that WoW is always missing. It's like, well, this some people like this, but other people's didn't, or it didn't affect other people. And maybe they can come together and create ideas that pretty much everybody likes. I think that would be in a perfect scenario, of course. I did want to talk, and I'll get off of this pretty quickly because I don't think it's fair. Because obviously, if they don't listen, then they don't listen. But there were some people saying that it's a stupid thing. It's not going to help at all. People are just going to get criticized because it's public. One person in particular was really against this, saying, "Well, we already had this and it didn't work." And that was, if nobody knows, obviously not me, but larger content creators had like a private Discord, or still have a private Discord, where they actually can interact with some of the WoW devs in a more, less crowded setting than like Twitter, and it's private. And they're like, well, you don't listen. And I think the issue there is you have such an echo chamber because it's a bunch of creators, and they might play the game differently. But at the end of the day, what their number one thing is that they have good content to put out for their viewers, right? And just as an example, right? So they made World Quest worse in Shadowlands. But World Quests were fairly popular. I thought they were really cool. Some people didn't interact with them at all, but I think a lot of people liked them, especially earlier on, maybe in Legion. And I think that they were a really cool thing and a really good thing for the game. However, creators are never going to be like, yeah, we need more World Quests, because that's not really content for them to do, right? That's something for them to do mindlessly if they're streaming and just chatting with their audience. But it's not really content in itself like that is super interesting, right? So those kinds of things go by the wayside when you have such an echo chamber where the people are, looking out for themselves. And, people will say, well, I was looking out for what's best for the game. But to you, what's best for the game might be different than what I think is best for the game. And so it is your opinion, it is your bias. And, just naturally speaking, when you have a bunch of content creators, they're going to have similar bias. There'll be other biases involved as well, like what type of players they are: casual, raiders, secret finding people, questers, lore seekers. There's different types of players as well what'll have biases, but it's just never good to have any kind of echo chamber. You wouldn't want all raiders in your council. You wouldn't want all non-raiders in your council, because they'd probably be biased, like negative against raiding. So you wouldn't want to have that kind of thing. And that's what that secret finding Discord was. The reason that failed, it didn't necessarily fail. It probably served the purpose that it could possibly serve. I'm sure they gave great ideas and helpful ideas, and I'm sure some of them weren't listened to. But again, it's coming from an echo chamber, so you can only take it with you can only take it so seriously when that's the case. So if they can execute this correctly, and that isn't a big if, let's be frank there, it is a big if, but if they can select people from all weeks of the game, I don't know how many they're selecting. They did say, which I think is another good thing, is that after a year, people can you can probably reapply if you want to, but they'll select a different group of people to come in and do this and try to keep it fresh, so it's not like the same people like making the, not decisions, but giving the feedback. And I think that's good as well, so no one can be on their high horse. That's another thing with this Discord with the creators, is it's been the same people, and I'm sure when a new creator got to like a certain level, they invited them or something like that, but generally speaking, it's been the same people the whole time. So that's another issue, right? You can't have the same people always doing it, and they're going to take advantage of stuff. They're going to do whatever. You want to have good people in this. It's almost impossible to, like, from this application. I did the application. It's really short. It's really easy. It's almost impossible from this application to tell if someone's a good person or not. But obviously that would be ideal. And you'd want these people to suggest things that's best for the game in general. I know if I get selected into this, things I'm going to champion are things like making the world relevant. This is something I think a lot of players are into, even if they don't really think about it a lot, but like progressing the world as much as they can. I always say this, I know they don't have enough resources to do a cataclysm every expansion, but kind of progressing things along. Okay, the dwarves now finally took over this town. The Tauren regrew this area and have an outpost here, or built an outpost back on Azeroth, right? And like progress things along in the game. They kind of did this with Warfronts to an extent, I think that will come up in the next expansion. I think that was always been the plan in the next expansion, frankly, and possibly even in this one. I guess it's possible we go back to Azeroth at the end here of this expansion, since the jailer left for the Sepulture, and we don't know where that is. So who knows? We could go back now or in this next in 9.2, but I think that'll kind of be the idea, and with basically the Alliance taking back Arethi Highlands by taking back Stromgarde, and they technically won the battle for Darkshore as well, Ian said. So that means that they could be rebuilding there, maybe building some sort of a stronghold or making that more of an Alliance, pillar. So the Alliance did win both the wars technically in BFA, the war fronts at least. So I think things like that are good. Like rebuilding of Stromgarde itself, like it didn't need to be a war front. Just that same idea, but like the expansion flips over. There's some new quests around that area, and it tells you the story of they rebuilt it, or maybe you have to do the finishing touches to rebuild it yourself. Stuff like that. And I think progressing that'll be one of my big things that I champion. I will champion releasing things in a way that is very good for the players to not be bored, and focusing things on like secrets, right? It doesn't have to be, a big hive mind secret every time, but like the slime serpent thing, for example, that was something that the player base really got pumped about, and a lot of players went and did this. And it was really challenging for some players because you did have to solo this, and some players had struggled with it, and I bet some people maybe couldn't do it, which isn't great. I would like everyone to be able to do it, but putting some of this stuff in to where it hits at a time when players are starting to get bored. So you may develop this secret. You might have already the idea for it, but maybe after a couple months into a patch, you actually make the secret go live. Obviously, you don't want it on PTR either because you don't want people to find it out. But things like that, releasing content in nice divvied up amounts, and having like little things to do and to try out, whether that's some, if they have something like Warfronts ever, if they do some whatever type of feature they do, like Torghast and Islands and all that kind of stuff, right? If they do something like that in Legion, it was mostly like invasions. BFA had invasions as well. But if you have this stuff, try to make it more interesting, or release different parts of it every couple months, or some big event or surrounding it every couple months. That makes it worth doing. The events in Torghast don't give you any extra rewards. It just changes the way you do it. So I mean, I'd be championing a lot of things personally, but I think there's some things that the players would really enjoy, and some of them don't even know that they want it, because a lot of times it comes down to, well, we want the classes balanced, and very contrived things that are very important. I'm not saying class balance isn't important; it obviously is, but I think I think while they're working on the class balance, if there was more interesting things to do in the game and more ways to get you sucked into the game and just like be a part of it. Like I'm really into something I'm really into the lore of now is like the MCU, and that's like with all their shows they're putting on Disney Plus and stuff like that, with WandaVision and Loki and all that. Like I'm really into the lore of all that and the Easter eggs and stuff like that. And that's how I was with WoW too, but they've more and more took that out of the game. And that's kind of what I want to go back to is, and they can't redo the whole thing, like I said, every expansion, but they definitely can do some things to make it better. So I'm hoping that with this WoW Council, that a bunch of really smart, really good-natured people who love World of Warcraft get selected, and I hope the devs listen to them. I'm going to be positive about it because that's what I hope is going to happen. And I don't know what the rules will be if you're on it, if you're allowed to talk about it or not. But if you are allowed to talk about it, I'll say, hey, they really are listening. This is what that I'm not allowed to. It says that they're not going to be privy to any new information. But I guess I could say, if you're allowed to talk about it, I could say something like, they are working on it. They're trying to do this and stuff like that. And if they're not listening, I would hope that either me or somebody else would say, hey, they're not really listening. This is a bunch of bullcrap, so people can know. So I'm not going to go into it with pessimistic attitude. I'm going to hope that they listen, hope that it's all good. And I'm very looking forward to it, because this is the only way that some of these changes that I would like to see in the game, whether I'm in this council or not, or whether you were in this council or not, anybody can sign up for this council. Regardless of who's in the council, people can make some, possibly, and have some changes made that wouldn't be made otherwise, because you don't have a voice, because we're not all we're not all Tally and Evital and or Asmon when he was playing WoW, or we don't all have like a giant platform to speak from or whatever. So let's hopefully some of the lower voices, whether that's someone who doesn't do anything at all, just a one player who doesn't have any friends, or somebody with a group of friends, and maybe multiple in the friend group get in, or multiple from a guild get in, or whatever, like some different groups of people can have a voice and hopefully make the game better. That's my hope. So I rambled a little bit too long in this video, I feel like, but it's something I'm super passionate about. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out so much. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.